We are the keepers of the flame, the sacred order. Let the ceremony begin. And today, faithful acolytes, we take a look at this. And I know it. Oh, I can hear you guys already saying, what the hell is this? You keep talking about how you really intensely dislike the lime and Takis and other stuff. What are you doing? What are you doing with a habanero lime ramen? And you're right. This is the Samyang Habanero Lime Buldak Spicy Chicken Ramen. And you might be totally correct. Hochi might be leading me wrong, and this might be absolute garbage. I don't know. It seems like, though, I want to try to do as many of the spicy Samyangs as I can when I come across them. This, as you can see, is a new flavor. And one of the things I like about these bowls, if it's junk, then I won't worry about ever having it again. But there are other people that like the combination of habanero and lime. I think it's sometimes okay. I actually did like it on some chips, and you can check that out in the spicy chips playlist if you're interested. It's not always awful. Most of the time, don't get me wrong. Don't you get me wrong, most of the time it is awful, but not always. Not always. Is it going to work in ramen? I don't know. This is such a weird... Here's the other reason. This is such a weird and outlandish thing to do that I'm just like super curious about how or even if this is going to work. So, we have habanero, we have lime, we have... Oh, whoa, they've really changed around the ingredients and stuff. This is olea resin, of course, is extract. So they have clearly changed this around for an American audience. Cinnamon, ginger, clove. Interesting. So kind of might have a little bit of a five spice vibe here, possibly. The flakes are carrot, cabbage, and bok choy. So we'll actually be having those this time. I don't see the word habanero here, though. Unless I'm missing it. We have hot sauce. Is that where maybe that's where the habanero is in the hot sauce. Although it's not explicitly saying that. We've got some what looks like dried onion in here as well. Yay. Garlic, tomato paste, ketchup. Wow, what? So it's calling it a sauce packet. So is it liquid? I don't know. Let's get into this and find out. Okay, so we do have... Yeah, it's liquid. So what we're going to need to do is... No, and you can't avoid the vegetables. Huh. Right. What would you like us to do, Noodles? So... We're going to sauce packet. The fill line. 5 minutes. And then add the sauce. Okay, so... We're just basically, are we draining? Okay, yeah, we are. So there it wants it drained. This one is not wanting it drained. Interesting. So why is, what? So that wants it drained if you use boiling water, but it doesn't want it drained if you're using this. I don't know which we're going to do, actually. So it's supposed to be a lower fill line. Where is that? This is wedged in there. This is interesting. I'm not quite clear on what we're going to have here. Okay, there's the... Can you see it? It's very subtle. It's right here. It's about a third of the way up the fork tines. It's super subtle. Wow. It actually is under the level of the noodles when they're in there. So, all right, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to I think I'm going to put the water in there first, actually, and then put the noodles in there, and we'll be back. I am going to let it sit for 5 minutes, so we're going to put it in the microwave for 5 minutes, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll be back to add in the sauce. Okay, and we've got our noodles all cooked up here. Oh yeah, look at that. Yep, all done up, absorbed all the water, so that was good. All right, let's get in the sauce. Looks like we have a tear strip there. So we'll try not to get this everywhere. There we go. I didn't tear this off super well, did I? Fortunately, it's making its way out pretty well. It smells more like the... Is there more in there? Get a little bit in there. We should still get that out too. Get as much heat as this will give us. There. All right. Smells more like the Korean spicy chicken buldak sauce than it does. I'm not getting any lime at all, which I'm taking as a pretty positive sign. Boy, this is. Hopefully, I can coat everything here. The bottom of this is still rather warm. It's been sitting for 5 minutes, but I'm a little nervous here because this is still really, really, really warm. And if you have too hot of foods and you have very spicy on top of it, you're just pinging the living hell right out of your TRPV1 receptors, because they are for temperature detection, right? But the way the capsaicin works, by binding it, it's saying that you always have something temperature hot in your mouth, when you don't. But there's a fine line, right? Because if you, these aren't going to be good cold. But if you have something, if you have these that are too hot, and you can see actually a pretty good example of this in the Samyang 2 times spicy chicken. I think I called it a challenge fail, possibly. But I wound up eating about half of them just because they were way too hot when I started, and they were really not good tasting as well, which is kind of the main reason that I stopped it. But also, it was just pinging my receptors in a really, really, really bad way. Not so much in my mouth, but you get an accumulation in your stomach, and that is really, really unpleasant. You see a lot of competitive eaters that will eat spicy stuff and not be bothered with it. And I think part of that is because a lot of them, like your Matt Stoneys and some of those people, they're used to eating food at such a fairly high temperature. Their TRPV1 receptors are acclimated to it. So it's not like and possibly they can just naturally handle capsaicin as well. But I think the receptors not, setting off alarm bells is partially due to them eating so many foods for their challenges at such a fairly high temperature. Okay, so that's an operating theory anyway, though. I could be wrong. But let's get into this and see what we have here. So I'm really curious to see if this is going to have any sort of Mexican-inspired flavors, because that's kind of what you'd expect. So far, it's fairly heavy on the Korean side. I am getting a little bit of a very subtle lime. Not a lot of... There's a slight habanero flavor to this as well. This is kind of what I was almost expecting. I was afraid of it being bad. It isn't bad, I can tell you that. It is on the low side of heat, to be sure. At the moment, I'll give it a default 1, but it doesn't seem to really have a strong identity. Like, it really just tastes like sort of a strange bowl of Korean spicy chicken noodles. I mean, it smells, definitely getting the lime smell. It smells a lot more Mexican-y than it tastes. A lot of those flavors that you would expect from sort of Mexican food. But definitely flavor-wise, it is much, much more so towards the Korean spicy noodles. It's interesting there's that much of a gap between the smell and the flavor. They're curious. I don't know that I would... I think they're more strange than anything else. They're not unpleasant. I would eat them again. I don't know that I would intentionally go buy them again, but I wouldn't turn it away. Very tame. As far as Korean spicy noodles go, though. Very tame. After this entire bowl full, I'll give it a 1. I'll give this a, I'll give it a legit 1. Not really hotter than that, but yeah, it's fair to call it a 1, I guess. Definitely, though, as far as Samyang goes, it is very, very much on the lighter side of those. That last little bit, and maybe I hit a little bit more sauce in the vegetables or something, but that last little bit, it's probably the hottest bite that I've had. Don't really get a building heat, though, like habaneros normally would. This is much more of a heat that is just, it's an extract heat, so it's kind of fierce immediately. It's just a, switch is flipped on. Yeah, like that. So I got too much stuff on my on this hand to be able to snap effectively, but happy to say it is somewhat enjoyable. Probably not my favorite of their flavors, but it's a really interesting take on things. I don't think it's a true fusion per se. I think it's more of a confused fusion, which honestly I find a lot of fusions to be a little bit confused in their approach. But pretty solid, honestly, overall. So heat, I'm going to give it a 1. And as far as flavor, I like the experimentalism of it. I don't know that I really love the flavor, but I wouldn't turn it away either. So I guess that is probably me liking the flavor. Surprisingly, I guess, even for me. It just, the thing that I think that really strikes me more about this than anything else is I just find it so interesting. There's that big difference between how it smells and the actual flavor you get. I find that just kind of wild, but this is well worth a go. If you like the spicy Korean noodles, if you like, your food to be a bit eccentric and kind of taking chances, this is a good one to get. I mean, I don't think it's a flavor that personally for me is like something I would latch onto as warm and comforting. But I don't mind it as a change of pace. I don't mind it at all. This was pretty solid. So, yeah, definitely worth a go if you like this style of food. And we'll leave it at that. So there it is. The Samyang Habanero Lime Buldak spicy chicken ramen noodles.
Now go forth in peace to serve the flame.